everyone. My name is Frenchie Loveheart. The honors this year. It's been an interesting journey. These 3 quarters, up and downs, learning, developing. Have quite an excellent faculty staff here to help us through, guide us through, and not development of the honors program. So for anyone that's coming next year, this is a great opportunity at Shoreline Community College. It's not just a couple of research papers that you do at the end of your class. It's actually a whole program for the whole year, so you go in depth and at many levels and different disciplines. So to come to this evolution of being an honors student. So thank you today for coming. I really appreciate it. Thank you for staff. My topic today will be on Guatemala, the country of Guatemala, and it's dealing with the. Actually, let me start off. I actually did a research, went to Guatemala in spring of 2013. That was one of my research projects, and I actually want to go more involved inside the country of Guatemala for more research. So this was a great opportunity for me to advance some studies. So what I've learned in the country of Guatemala is that there's several situations that came about in my research. And the areas, I have 3 main topics I will be talking about, and that will be the education system, the work environment and labor force in the country of Guatemala, and also the class system in the country of Guatemala. There's 3 terminologies, major terminologies I'll be dealing with. Just to inform you, the 3 terminology that I've been talking through my presentation will be oligarchy, which is the power structure down there. That's the term I'll be talking about when I hear that. Or elitism, elite class. That's all dealing similar to the oligarchy system in the country of Guatemala. And also, another terminology I'll be using will be similar to the oligarchy, who was talking about the power structure in the country. And that's the upper and lower structures down in the country in the country of Guatemala. So from their point on, I'll start into the presentation. After being in Guatemala, my first one I would like to focus on will be the classism down in the country of Guatemala. That's basically dealing with 3 structures down there inside the classism. That's the military, the Hispanic, and another term, I apologize, Ladino community down in the country of Guatemala, not in the country of Guatemala, and also, as I said, the church. And the church is a breakdown of the Catholic Church and also the Protestant Church. So the first power structure in the country of Guatemala will be the Catholic, the Catholic Church. They have a lot of power in the country of Guatemala, where they are structured as keeping the people in the country of Guatemala in with religious institution, policies, and structures in the country that keeps the people in control and in an organized way, where it gives the people that's in power control over the citizens in the country of Guatemala. The second is the political structure in the country of Guatemala, and that's dealing with the elite classes or the Hispanic community that has most of the power in the country of Guatemala. That's the upper class, and they focus on keeping the positions, the upper class position in the Hispanic community, and limited a percentage of the community positions for the indigenous community, which is a 60% population down in the country of Guatemala. 60% of the population is indigenous people in the country. So that's the second one. And the third one, the military. The military controls the power in the country with force and organization structure for the lords, for the whole country in essence, and they do that with their force, and they're regulated by the government of Guatemala. So that's the first structure of classism down in the country. In the country of Guatemala. The that's three structures of the class system down there. So some of my articles that I found that I deal with was the Christopher Chase Don 2000 article, and also the Foresight DP 2009 article. You can find, if you want to look into it, you can find some more information on my article after you hear my presentation. And in the Foresight, that's the Encyclopedia of Human Rights in Guatemala. So them the basic areas where I found a lot of my information on dealing with the oligarchy and the power structure in the country of Guatemala. So from there, I would like to move into my second point, or fact, we'll be dealing with the education system in the country of Guatemala. And in the country of Guatemala, the educational system, they have a free, compared to the U.S., they have a free public system down there to the grade of sixth grade in the country of Guatemala. And what that allows, that's the highest level the citizens of the country of Guatemala can have free education at this point. After that point, the families or the people have to pay for their own education. And that age factor in the country of Guatemala is from 7 to 14. And a couple of my articles, I found out that, in one of my articles, Chris Narek, 2006, they stated that Guatemala and Latin America is the third highest literacy rate in Latin America and the Caribbean. And that's a direct pipeline to a lower level of opportunities in the country, because they don't have the opportunity to achieve higher education in the country as far as compared to the Hispanic or Latino community in the country of Guatemala. Here, a couple of my pictures. This is the indigenous class, or some of the community groups down there. One of the pictures, so you can see this is some of their normal traditional wear in the country. Next picture. This is basically how the 60% of the population in the country of Guatemala, indigenous people, live and deal with selling their supplies and how they're working in their environment in the country of Guatemala. And the other one is the Hispanic or Latino class that I come to find out, I learned about, is basically the Latino is a term that they consider the Hispanic or ones mixed with European and indigenous bloodlines in the country. So this is the upper class in the country of Guatemala, and this is kind of similar to how they live, and compared to the previous slide where the indigenous people live. Not saying one is greater than the other, I'm just stating the power and the economic might is more into the Hispanic or the Latino class hand, economically speaking. This is the next picture is talking about dealing with the classism, talking about the Hispanic and the Latino life. This is the Hispanic and the Latino life previous to the indigenous life, and where I showed you about the marketing and the selling of their supplies and how they work in their environments in the country of Guatemala. And this is the opposite of the Hispanic Latino life, how they operate their functions, kind of similar to the U.S. where Americans are conditioned to. So that's the first part of the classism in the country of Guatemala. The second one I'm talking about, what I just stated, would be the educational system in Guatemala. As I stated previously, there's a 6th grade level public free institution education, and after that, if they don't have enough money to afford to go further into the country, into their education system, they're relegated to a lower level of opportunities. And instead of being able to obtain education levels to go into positions of doctor, lawyer, politics, or any other upper echelon classes. So, as far as this is the indigenous education system I was in the country, or what I've noticed, as you can see, the environment they're educated in. Not all, but overall, a lot of the places I visit and a lot of places I've seen, the indigenous people start at this level in the educational system, children. So, but the other side of the coin, which is the Hispanic education system, they have more of a high technology, more the economics to afford better opportunities than the indigenous population in the country of Guatemala. So this is the class distinctions between the upper and the lower classes in the country. So, and this where you relegate to the Hispanics, they have information and technology that allow them to go further in their education and look for other opportunities to advance their educational system. So they have a direct pipeline to the upper level, and the indigenous have a direct pipeline to a lower tier of opportunities in the country of Guatemala. Not saying all, but a higher percentage of directly relegated to the lower and upper class. From there, I was going to, after looking at the class system and the education system, I will now share with you the labor force and working environments comparatively in the country of Guatemala between the Hispanic and Latino work environment and an indigenous work environment. In the Hispanic work environment, these are some of the environments they work in as far as their stores and their environment, how they carry themselves, and they're kind of socialized in an upper level where people from different international communities or people visiting or people just in the country of Guatemala existing, where they have a higher environment and higher upper level and a more pristine environment to go shopping and sales and everything. So this is how the Hispanic and Latino community operate in the country of Guatemala. And, in indigenous work environments, this is how not all, but a percentage of have their work environments inside the country of Guatemala. From my visit, I've seen some of the communities indigenous people work and then take their supplies and sell in the towns, the community. And this is some of the labor skills they use, very craftful, very top crafts, but this is the environment they're selling their wares in, and this is the opportunities they have right now in the country of Guatemala. Not saying they can't have more opportunities, but right now, this is the indigenous class relocation of their opportunity without going to higher education. Excuse me. So, in the three areas of the country of Guatemala, what I've noticed a direct distinction between the indigenous community and the Hispanic and Latino communities in the country, and both Western and Eastern hemisphere of the country of Guatemala, as when I was in my study abroad. And I looked at several of these, several of my research papers and noticed the variation in the country. And I believe in the future, if more international and more countries become more aware, in my summary, of the conditions of the country of Guatemala and what's going on, I think we could, the worldview or the United Nations could come to a more of an aid in helping the country and the country of Guatemala and raising the bar for economical growth in the indigenous community, and also passing some of the wealth from the Hispanic Latino community, so to balance out the economy, the overall national economy of Guatemala. And I hope I get to see that in the future. Thank you for your time.
Question for Frenchie. Okay, thank you.
Frenchie
Frenchie and I also work quite a bit together, and his experience in class analysis have grown, and my understanding of Guatemala has increased as a result of some of his research.
That brings our presentations to a close. Again, I want to